Hello, everyone. Today we are going to start discussion on sampling. Basically, while we have used the data collected from primary sources, we first have to think for sampling. So that is why today's lecture outline is concept of sampling, need for sampling, and disadvantages of sampling. There will be different types of keywords today you will verify here from, that is sample, population, universe, homogeneous, heterogeneous, etc. And you will find out the meaning and understanding of this type of new keywords in this lesson. So to come with, basically sampling is the process of selecting observations to provide an adequate description and inferences of the population. If you see this circular diagram, if it is representing population, then a chunk taken out from this is known as sample. Now, sample is basically a unit that is selected from population. It represents the whole population and its purpose is to draw the inference. But why sample? Because the sampling frame basically it lists about the different types of questions that we are observing in this particular sample. Now, if we go through the definition of sampling, sampling is measuring a small portion of something and then making a general statement about the whole thing. That means we are using a representation based upon which we are using conclusion about the whole lot. Process of selecting a number of units for a study in such a way that the unit represents the larger group from which they are selected. Now, if you see this diagram, it will clarify your ideas more. So, if we see the pink circle and we consider it as the population, then the sampling frame means what you want to talk about. That means the researcher want to find out from this population. Then obviously the sampling process, and when that sample, that is the green circle, is the sample, we observe in this sample. That is what actually we want to observe in this data. Based upon that observation, we again come back to the inference about the population. So we start from the bigger one, then through the sampling process, we select a smaller one. We study that, collect the data from the smaller one, analyze those, and while analyzing, we come to the conclusion about the bigger one. That is basically sampling. Now, in the sampling, we basically verify that the bigger one is the population or target population. Then within that, there is another subset which we call study population. And within this, we can see the sample, which is the smallest representation. The sampling frame means a list of all elements or other units containing the elements in a population. For example, we want to study the perception about a particular product by the customers or maybe brand loyalty. Here, To identify the brand loyalty, we have taken several many other constructs and that will be treated as the elements and we call it as sampling frame. Now population. Basically, population is the larger group from which individuals are selected to participate in a study. We cannot have the time or other resources. Basically, these are all constant and against which if we want to go for study on some 2 crore of people, we cannot collect data from all the 2 crores. It is very difficult from human resource point of view and monetary resource point of view. So that is why we only select a true representation of this 2 crore population and that is required for our study. Now what is target population? Basically, Elsevier has given a very, I say, clear idea about this target population. Here you can see a set of elements larger than or different from the population. For an example, I want to study MBA students of Kolkata. So, here our population is all the people living in Kolkata or maybe all the students living in Kolkata. But our target population is only those who have completed MBA or who are pursuing MBA. They are the MBA students and also they are pursuing their course at Kolkata. So they are our target population. To which, if you see here, that a set of elements larger than or different from the population sampled and to which the researcher would like to generalize study findings. Here also you can see one of the funnel out, that is the what do you want to generalize to, that is the theoretical population. Then what population can you get access to? You cannot collect data from all throughout the world. So you have to make a chunk of it, that is the study population. Then how can you get access to them? That is your sampling frame. And who is in your study? That means who will submit the response is your sample. So basically from a bigger chunk, we ultimately funnel it out into a smaller one. Now, the population is heterogeneous or homogeneous. Many of the time the questions may come that the sample we have taken, maybe one of the element is not available in that sample. That is not true representation. So that is why while we are selecting our sample, we have to first think about the heterogeneity, the heterogeneous character of the population, and while all those characters are available in the sample too or not. That is why we have to verify if the population is heterogeneous or not. Now, obviously, it is required to understand that why we need sampling. Sampling actually makes possible the study of a large, heterogeneous, different characteristics population. The universe or population to be studied may be too large or unlimited, that it is almost impossible to reach all of them. Sampling makes possible this kind of study because in sampling only a small portion of the population may be involved in the study, enabling the researcher to reach all through this small proportion of the population. Then why sampling is for economy? Yes, research without sampling may be too costly. I just have mentioned you that if you want to get a connectivity from all the subjects of the population, it is almost impossible from costing point of view. So sampling reduces the study population to a reasonable size that expenses are greatly reduced. And yes, sampling is for speed also. Research without sampling might be too time consuming. If you make it small, then obviously within a smaller possible time frame, you can complete your work. Sampling is for accuracy. If it takes too long a time to cover the whole study population, there may be inaccuracy. The research must be finished within a reasonable period of time so that the data are still true, valid, and reasonable. Sampling saves the source of data from being all consumed. Here I can give you an idea that why sampling has first taken place and when it has been taken place. Basically, it is during the period of after First World War and Second World War has started. Now, almost all the countries requires the different types of arms and ammunitions, but the quality of those products are not up to the mark. So that is why the sampling technique has first utilized when from a big batch, some particular representation has been taken and it has been tested in original. And when it is being tested, obviously it is being exhausted. So if you test every unit, then there will be no weapons in your hand at the time of fighting. So that is why the sampling has started to identify whether the quality of the whole lot is up to the mark or not. So here the act of gathering data may consume all the sources of information without sampling. So in such a case, there is no more data to apply for conclusion. But whether sampling do not have any disadvantages? No, no. Sampling also have disadvantages like defective sampling. If sampling is biased or not representative or too small, the conclusions may not be valid or reliable. In research, the respondents to a study must have a common characteristics which is the basis of the study. Furthermore, if the population is very large and there are many sections and subsections, the sampling procedure becomes very complicated. If the researcher does not possess the necessary skill and technical know-how in sampling procedure, obviously it will make a wrong sampling or defective sampling. So these are all about the sampling. In the next class, we will discuss about types of sampling design. Thank you all.